right, so welcome back. So is it on January 6th, right? We have to take down the Christmas trees and so on, right? I think so. So we're still in the Christmas season, right? Okay, so we are continuing this morning with the Chief Executive Officer of the American Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Mr. Nirad Tiwari. Nirad, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Marlon. Good morning to everyone in studio and to everyone viewing and listening.
Yeah, and Happy New Year to you, Nirad, and thank you very much for the contributions that you continue to make to the morning edition. We do appreciate that. Nirad, as we look at 2024, what is the outlook looking like?
Well, I honestly think at this point it's a little uncertain. We are currently collecting some data from our membership via an annual survey that we do with EY, and we'll present those results at our economic outlook event, in a couple of weeks. And that would give us a sense of what people are thinking. It's uncertain because crime remains a big problem. And, while we are, of course, encouraged somewhat by a reduction in murders overall, it's at an unacceptable level. In fact, I would say it's out of control. And we need to address the issue of violent crime and its links to white-collar crime and corruption and drugs and so on in order to instill some more confidence. And once confidence is instilled, I think, of course, the outlook would be better. And then you extrapolate that to all of the things that are happening in the international environment over which we have little control. And we have to plan to continuously be agile, which is what businesses do anyway, but more so, I think, in the last few years. And of course, you have the good news, potentially, if we are able to access gas from Venezuela, that would keep some of our key industries afloat, and of course have some ripple effects in the wider economy. But that's not, depending on who you ask, that's not going to really be felt for another 3 to 5 years. And going 24 into 25 could be tough years for gas supply.
Yeah, Nirad, you touched on the issue of crime. Is it that when, let's say, business leaders, let's say, are approaching AMCHAM, is it a great concern for them about our crime levels in Trinidad and Tobago?
Of course it is. I mean, people have sometimes a love-hate relationship with business, right? But businesses and business people can't just pack up and leave in the same way that others who may be professionals, people who are employed and so on, can, in the sense that they have loans associated with their businesses, they have infrastructure, whether it be buildings, whether it be equipment, plant, stock, etc. And as you plan your lives and you plan to try and see how best you can get to the best outcome, if you are afraid to go outside, if you're afraid that you may be kidnapped, if you're afraid that you might be the random victim of a shooting on the highway, it has a very, very significant impact. And then the costs associated with that, the costs are, of course, personal and human costs, but they're also very real material costs associated with trying your best to mitigate against the likelihood that you would be a victim of crime.
Yeah. Nirad, let's reflect a little bit on 2023. What is your assessment? What were the successes? What were some of the challenges that you all still experienced at the end of 2023?
So the biggest challenge, I would say, apart from crime, remains trade across borders and issues around customs and the way that those operations are taking place, the lack of clarity around procedures. Sometimes it feels to us that crises are manufactured so that they could be addressed, and in addressing a crisis that did not need to be a crisis, people say, oh, wow, look, we're doing a great job. You would have seen a release, I'm sure, from Customs saying that packages were cleared before Christmas. But in the lead up to that, new, unannounced, unplanned systems were implemented that created that crisis and heightened an already inefficient system. So, you know, if you're going from something that didn't need to be and showing that you can in fact do so, fix it, then why not fix it permanently? So that remains one of the biggest issues that we face. Of course, one of the biggest successes were the negotiations around the energy sector. You saw some short-term contracts for petrochemical plants, but that just means it's almost a constant state of negotiation. You see access to additional gas and the reorganization of Atlantic LNG. Potentially, these things can have a significant positive impact, and we're optimistic that they will. But those definitely are some of the successes.
Mm-hmm. How are your members dealing with the minimum wage that has been introduced, the property tax that is coming, and also we do have underway proposed electricity rate increases? What's the temperature among your members?
Yeah, so all of those are some of the uncertainties. So property tax, my understanding is that it'll be residential in the first instance. So we have to continue to dialogue and wait and see what will happen with the commercial rates. The final decision on the electricity rates, as I understand it, has not been reached. However, that is something of concern in the sense that I think the uncertainty of what it would be and how it will impact. The minimum wage will impact members in, of course, the security sector. They have already announced that, and we have a few members in security. And then the knock-on impact. It's a little early to tell how big that will be, but if you continue to have a situation where crime feels like it's out of control and crime remains and fear pervades, then of course, if you have increased costs of the provision of security, you're going to see increased costs overall and less efficiency, therefore.
Yeah. Has the Forex situation improved at all?
No, it has not, and we're not sure if it will before the end of the first quarter of 2024, given supply issues.
Yeah. So I know that the finance minister had said that he planned to have discussions with banks and stakeholders and so on. Are you aware if these talks happened at all?
Yeah, I think he did. I think he had some discussions with the banks and some businesses. I'm not sure that I'm not sure whether any new arrangements were put in place. But you would recall last year, I think we spoke about it when we suggested a small injection to sort of smooth the huge dip. He did in fact accede to that and made a small injection at that time. Maybe another will be necessary, but I think there's some optimism that maybe if we have a good carnival season, there may be, we may see an uptick that will help to smooth things out over the first quarter.
But you still do have a situation where many businesses are still feeling the pinch, as it were, from this Forex situation.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So is it then, Neeraj, is it safe to say it's really a wait and see approach as it relates to business and what will transpire in 2024?
Well, I think the first quarter of a year, particularly for companies that have annual years, right? Annual financial year, January to December, is always like that. I mean, we have some members, multinational companies that sort of ban travel unless it's extremely necessary in the first quarter, as both a cost containment and an attempt to focus on the nuts and bolts of the business during that period. So the first quarter of any financial period of any year is always critical, and it is a time where unless you have long-term projects, which some businesses have in place, companies tend to sort of take some time to assess, to plan, and so on, to see how conditions are emerging, to decide whether they want to be aggressive in this financial period or a little more conservative or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
So yes, it's kind of a wait and see time.
Yeah. Just before 2023 ended, there were a bit of tensions going on between Guyana and Venezuela, and tensions, I suspect, too, concerning the environment in the Caribbean. Is this situation receiving any attention or interest by your organization?
Well, of course, what happens in our neighborhood affects us all, and is of concern to us all. I think though what has played out over the last month and a half or so, again, re-emphasizes the value of CARICOM and Caribbean unity, and the value that can have, not just for individual states, but for all of us as a single space, if we were to implement that fully. And we, like other business organizations, and I think most people around the region, and including in Venezuela, would expect and would like to see continued good neighborly relations amongst all our neighbors, including Guyana and Venezuela. And we will support any effort to ensure that continues to prevail. Yeah.
I'm also seeing in the newspaper this morning, and it was during a speech by the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping, and he's saying that China's businesses are struggling and job seekers have trouble finding work. This is the first time that he has mentioned economic challenges in his New Year speech. So you have this confirmation by the Chinese leader. Then you also have the situation concerning Ukraine and Russia. Then you have this situation concerning the Israel and the Palestinians. It's a very torrid type of environment for business. Uncomfortable.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and then you have environmental concerns affecting the Panama Canal and shipping. So when you add all those things together, it's a time where businesses have to be even more agile than they usually are. But on the plus side, you're seeing a fairly buoyant U.S. economy and some growth in industries that had been sort of outsourced, and you're also seeing more explicit acknowledgement that cobalt and other materials that had led to shortages of key electronic components in particular, that those shortages seem like they're being ameliorated. So, it's finding the opportunities where others see only risk, and navigating that to the best of your ability. And of course, as a country, we would be much better able to navigate the challenges, because there will always be challenges for any country, big or small, if there is engagement and collaboration. And that is one of the things that we would like to see more in 2024, engagement and collaboration, not just between us, business, and the government, but also with the labor movement and other stakeholders in society, because we do have, just like the world is going through a big change and upheaval, we need to economically, socially, and in terms of our education system as well, we need to make some huge leaps in a fairly short space of time to adapt and to remain resilient.
Yeah. Nirad, for people, some business people who may be looking at us right now and wondering if the American Chamber, your organization, is for them, how does business become a part of your organization? And what are some of the services that you will provide?
Sure. Thanks for asking that question. Any chamber, really, the two big things that you get out of a chamber are networking and advocacy and knowledge. The third one is knowledge, education, and so on. Anyone can join the chamber. Well, any business, I should say. We don't have individual membership. We even have a start-up category of membership, because we acknowledge that as the world, as economies are changing, you have different types of businesses that are being developed and may be quite dynamic even at the beginning. So we have a startup category of membership. The information is on the website. You do need 2 referrals from members, and then you just go through the process, and we would assess your membership once your documents are in order and so on. We do ask for things like VAT certificates and the like for those companies that are supposed to be registered. And if you're not, as a startup, for example, you get a letter from the BIR saying that. And I mention that because I think it's important that we make the point that we have a vetting process.
Yes.
Because we want to ensure that our membership is, as best as we can. I mean, we're not a court or an investigative agency, but we do our best to ensure that our membership is comprised of companies that are trying or that are doing the right thing at all times.
Yeah, Nirad Tiwari, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much, and again, Happy New Year.
Thanks, Marlon. Happy New Year to you and yours, and all the very best.
All right, bye
May
for now,
be kind
Nirad.
and gentle.
Yes, okay. So we are going to a very short break. We are coming back.